Good afternoon, my YouTube family. So it is Sunday afternoon, and I am going to be doing a few things ahead of schedule that's going to help us help me into next week. So I've got a few things going on. I am right now preparing a baby back ribs that my husband's going to be putting on the grill later. So I'm going to be seasoning that, which we will do right now. I have some sourdough everything bagel seasoning crackers that I'm going to be making with you. I have some farm fresh chicken that I want to rotisserie, and I'm going to go through that with you along with the recipe for the seasoning mix. And this is going to be tonight or today's every day on the homestead type of thing. And when I do these preps, I think from now on, I am going to be making these videos to take you with me. Now I'm also going to be making some chicken broth again so that I can prepare to put more on our shelf to stock for this winter. We do go through a lot of broth, and I prefer to have homemade versus anything from the store. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare that up as well. I have a few chickens that I want to. They weren't very big or nothing, so they make great broth. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to set you up here so that you can see how I'm doing the ribs first, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so this is, since it is for hubby, we do have to watch his sugar. So everything that I do as far as seasoning wise, I actually make homemade because I can make it sugar free and less carbs doing it that way. So, and I know what kind of ingredients are in these. So I have a rub already set up that I am going to sprinkle on this, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for a few hours. It has been actually rubbed down with my homemade Dijon mustard that I had canned last winter, and I still have quite a bit of that, but once I get low, you can bet you I am actually going to be making that again. I found the flavor to be absolutely amazing, and if I'm not mistaken, I had done a video on this already on how to make that for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish off this jar, and I will make us some more of this. But at least I know it's safe for him, especially since he is now off his meds and our diet is actually literally controlling his diabetes. Thank you, Lord. So, alright, so the rib is now rubbed and done, and I'm going to set this in the fridge and let it marinate for a little while hubby is preparing to make bee boxes. His ribs can be sitting here marinating. So I'm going to set that up and then get us ready for our next step. Okay, so the next we're going to work on is our rotisserie chicken. So in order to do that, I have to make our seasonings. Now I will say this about the seasonings. As far as making up a dry seasoning mix homemade from your kitchen, even if you have specialty diets, like my husband, for instance, being diabetic, you can actually convert any dry seasoning mix, barbecue seasoning mix, and I'll give you an example. If you were to take a barbecue seasoning rub, they usually add sugar or brown sugar to it. Substitute that with a substitute sugar base like Swerve brown sugar or your substitute sugar of choice. That's all you have to do. You can have the same thing as everyone else. You're just substituting an original recipe to accommodate your needs. So on this one, this seasoning I have found kind of tastes like you would get from the store, but to me better. So it starts out, hold on a minute while I take care of what hubby needs. I am so sorry. I am so sorry, y'all. He does that sometimes and he needs me to find something for him. So on to the mix. So we need a half a teaspoon of salt, and I am using Himalayan sea salt. I'm actually using a measuring cup because I'm going to mix it all together anyways. I need a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. I pretty much had everything ready, but this one. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of this. And you can use any type of paprika, sweet or smoked. I like the smoked flavor. It actually tastes better to me. I'm using 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and that makes sense, especially for this one. You don't want to use a whole lot of heat, but go by your preference. But under homemade, and I will tell you that's what these were, homegrown, homemade cayenne, they tend to be a whole lot spicier than you get at the store. So I am going to be using very little of this, just enough for that bite, and that is it. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder. And these again are homemade, dehydrated. And that's a 1/2 teaspoon of both. Onion and our garlic. And I need a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme and basil. I am just about out of thyme. I'm going to have to get some more of this. And that's a 1/2 teaspoon each of these. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of rosemary and a 1/4 teaspoon of parsley. Now, rosemary tends to have bigger leaves, so I actually take these and break them down in my hand and kind of rub them together to break down those leaves, so I'm not getting such big pieces of rosemary in here. Or just rub them between your fingers, that works just as well. And that takes care of that one. And then I need a 1/4 teaspoon of dried parsley, which I am going to have to do this as well, as this was done from fresh parsley, dehydrated. So, and I actually like a little bit more, so I'm going a 1/2 teaspoon on this. And that's it. You just take it, mix this up really good. And we're going to use this to cover our whole chicken with to rotisserie. And I will get our chicken ready and prepared, get this mess cleaned up since we have small space, show you how we're going to prepare our chicken and then put it in the rotisserie oven. Okay, so we have our whole chicken right here, and this is our farm fresh. So we are actually going to take and use this entire mix. This mix will cover one whole chicken. So I am actually going to coat from inside to outside of this bird. I'm actually going to sprinkle this first with some olive oil to hold my seasoning on it. Now I'm going to rub it on there really good. So I'm just going to kind of bathe this in olive oil. Just like so. And then I'm going to to take it and sprinkle this with our seasoning and rub it in really good. And since I'm not worried about storing this seasoning, I don't have to worry about using special cautions basically on it, because this whole chicken's going to take this rub. Oh, this is gonna, and it smells so good already. This is gonna be a very tasty. We have used this rub several times. We've used it even on our turkeys, and it has been absolutely amazing. So we had a farm fresh turkey about 2 years ago. I used this seasoning on, and oh my goodness. Y'all, I've not been using any other thing since. I don't even really buy it from the store unless I'm extremely lazy. And then I regret it if I do, because, well, it's got hidden sugars and all in it, where I know mine does not. So I know what's in it. So now our chicken is nicely coated. I'm going to wash my hands right quick and then clean this up to get it ready to get it on the rotisserie. So if you'll excuse me just one moment while I wash my hands. That way I can work with this chicken a little bit better. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this set up and cleaned up, and we will be right back. Okay, so the next step that I'm going to do is I need to tie up these wings and the legs to keep them from actually flipping around in my rotisserie. So I'm going to cut this, and on the back side over here I'm going to lay my string underneath it where the wings and stuff are, and I'm going to tie these together. Did not mean to block you off there. So I'm going to go up under the wings, and then I'm going to tie this off really good to make sure that they hold. Do that one more time just to make sure that, well, that didn't want to work. Okay, well, that's going to be all right. Just going to trim that off. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the legs. I'm just going to take it, my string, cut it off, put it from the back side, wrap this around, wrap my legs around this way. Wrap this around this way, and flip my bird over on the back. Tie my string, trim it. Now I'm going to take one of these edges and then take these legs here, tie these together right quick. And this is just to ensure that this does not flop around inside of my rotisserie machine. Now I'm going to take my spit, what they call it, on my machine, and I'm going to run this through my chicken. And I'm going to run this on the opposite side. Get this in here just right so that it'll actually hold for me. Okay. This is usually a very difficult side for me, but we will get this. I've not used this machine in quite a while. There we go. So now I'm going to tighten this up on here. Now we'll turn you over to the rotisserie machine that we have. I'll show you how we're going to do this.
Ready for your first day?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be with you in a minute, and I'll introduce you to your class.
Okay, so what we have here is a baby George Foreman. I bought this thing at a yard sale, like flea market, many years ago when my husband and I were literally truck driving. We happened to do a stopover in Kentucky and found a flea market, and I got this thing pretty easy, so it was fairly inexpensive. I've used this a couple times and I've really enjoyed it. So I am going to now set this inside of here, and I'm going to try and get this set on top. There we go. All right. So it seems to be a little bit too long, so I'm going to actually have to come back in here and press it down some more. So let me get this started and get this put back in there. Okay, so I've finally got this thing situated to fit in this roaster. It seems like my chicken is a little bit bigger than this roaster is, so I had to maneuver it a little bit. So we're going to take this now and just close this up and clean this off. And I am going to set this for now, and we'll check on it later, for about an hour and a half in this rotisserie. Make sure that it's going to roll around real good. And y'all, it looks like we're ready to go. So that one is pretty much a set it and forget it rotisserie machine. And I actually like this. So here is going to be another meal during the week on top of the ribs. So our next step we're going to work with is making our sourdough crackers. And in between making the sourdough crackers, I am also going to set up my roasting pan for another set of chicken broth that we can during the week. And I'm going to take you with me because these are our Sunday projects that I'm doing to prepare into next week. So let's take you next to the sourdough starter mix. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the sourdough subject. So I am actually using, I started another bigger jar of sourdough mix because I'm finding honestly that I am needing more sourdough for more stuff for me throughout the weeks, the months, and then I can freeze and prepare. I'm learning to actually use sourdough for everything, including my crackers. Now how this came about was I have these two jars here and I need to feed them today. But I took the discard from these two. Came out to be 150 grams. And so I just made a bigger stock of that. And I absolutely love this. I'm learning a lot more about sourdough from Farmhouse on the Boone channel. I absolutely love her. And she's teaching me so much more about sourdough products. But this one here I found different, and it wasn't from her. This is from a different recipe. But I am going to try this recipe and see how it works. And I'm making me an everything bagel sourdough crackers. I like the fact that I can have homemade crackers. One easily digestible with sourdough, and I'm using my discard from this morning's off of this batch right here, and that's what we're going to work with. It doesn't take a whole lot, so I can get a lot more sourdough out of this and several different types of crackers. So I'm going to be doing two types actually. I'll be doing a plain base type sourdough and then season it or putting it in a Ziploc, shaking it with probably some white cheddar powder, and I will show you that one too. And then this one here is the everything bagel. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. So first I need 150 grams of bread flour. I need 1 teaspoon of salt. And y'all, I gotta find out, yep, what I do with my salt. I got so many things going on at once. So we're gonna go with a teaspoon of salt. And actually, no, on this one here, I'm gonna eliminate the salt because there's salt in the everything bagel seasoning, and I'm gonna use quite a bit in that seasoning mix. But I do need 2 teaspoons of sugar. And you can eliminate the sugar from these recipes as well. So for those who can't have sugar, just omit it. It's not going to hurt it. It's just actually flavoring. So for those who don't have to worry about it so much, it's 2 teaspoons of sugar. And I will put this recipe, the basic, in it, and then you can add your own seasonings from there. So I'm just going to give you the basic recipe. Now I'm going to need 3 tablespoons of olive oil in this. 1, 2, and 3. This is the basic right here that I am giving you at the moment. This is for all of them, and then the rest is just seasonings basically are afterwards. So after that, I need 3 tablespoons of sourdough starter, discard. And you do not have to feed this prior. It can come out of your fridge, whatever. This is just discard that you're going to use for this. I do not like using the metal when it comes to my sourdough, so I need 3 tablespoons of this. And 3. And this still leaves me quite a bit left over to make others with, so you can make a lot of crackers out of that. And it depends. Now for me on this one, it depends on how much discard you have. So if you have a little, 3 tablespoons would be enough to make an entire batch of your crackers. And I'm also at this point going to preheat my oven for 350 degrees. So that way it's ready when these are. I'm going to go ahead and forgive me, I'll set that right away. Now I'm going to need at least 1 to 3 tablespoons of water. And what we're going to do is we need just enough, from what I understand, and we need warm water. We need just enough to make the dough moist, kind of on the dry side moist, but not too wet. So I'm going to start with 1 tablespoon, and I'm going to mix this up. If we need more, I will add more. And every area is going to be different, so I'm going to start this off first, mixing this with the spatula, and then I am actually going to use my old-fashioned hands, y'all. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and add another tablespoon of water to this. Now I'm going to use my hands basically, because also tells me what my dough is going to feel like and how it's going to react and how much and how moist it is. So by spoon you can't really get all that information. Now this seems a little too dry for me, but I'm going to wait until it saturates into the flour mix first. Just knead it a little bit. Get that worked in and rehydrate or hydrate this flour mix. Because sometimes it does take a little while for that, and then you can add too much water. So kind of knead it first and see where it goes from there. And then if it seems too dry, then you can always add some more. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and add just a little more. And I need to add a 1/4 teaspoon of everything bagel seasoning to this too. I'm actually going to let this one be the plain one, y'all, and then we're going to add make another batch of this. So I'll have 2 batches going. Right now I want to get this one pretty much done. I'm going to knead this up a little bit and set it aside, and then we'll get our other one, because we're going to let these rest for 15 minutes afterwards.
Grandpa, Kate's my wife. Yeah. So how come you call her ma'am? Either way she's built, it's like more fitting than sir. You don't have to call her no love names like Sugar Babe or Sweetie.
This is the one we'll coat with the white cheddar mix. And in the end, after it's done baking, I'll show you how I do that. It's really simple. Just throw it much in the, it's like shake and bake. I'm going to be putting the seasoning in a Ziploc bag. And then I'm just going to shake my crackers in it. Alright, so this one here is pretty much done. I'm going to set this aside while we make up another batch with the everything's bagel seasoning. And that way we'll have 2 batches of crackers I can store up and have during the week. So I'm going to set this one aside and get set up for the next batch. Okay, on to the second batch now. We have, again, our basic 150 grams of bread flour. Go ahead and cover this one up right away, because I'll be putting these aside here in a bit. So we have 150 grams of bread flour. We're going to do a 1/4 cup. Now on that first batch, I should have added salt. I will sprinkle my salt on it when I go to baking, but you can add salt to that. So the next step would be, after 150 grams of bread flour, it's going to be 1 teaspoon of salt. So I am also going to be adding a 1/4 cup of everything bagel seasoning to this mix. 2 teaspoons of sugar. Again, you can leave the sugar out. If you have diabetes, just eliminate the sugar. It's just used for flavoring. I need 3 tablespoons each of olive oil and my sourdough starter mix. So there's my 3 tablespoons of olive oil.
Yes, sir, ain't seen nothing that fancy since the coffin and buried old Judge Carver. I ain't ready to go just yet.
And now I'll need my 3 tablespoons of my sourdough discard. Again, I use plastic in my discards. I don't ever use a metal source, which you can actually mix this in a stainless steel bowl. Don't get me wrong. You can absolutely do that. This is just a preference when it comes to being in my mix. That was 1. That's 2. I want to make sure I get the equal amount here. And then this is number 3. And then again, we're going to add 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of water. So I'm going to start out with 1 tablespoon. Mix this up and go from here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and start with 2 from the last batch. It's going to be the same way. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of my water in here. And then again, we'll start out mixing this up with my spoon. From there, we go with my hands. Just going to get it where I can work with it. Now I'm going to go with just a half a tablespoon more, not a whole lot. And that should be good right there. From the rest of the way, I'm going to go with my hands. We're just going to hydrate this water, or the flour, get this all mixed in, incorporated. That's it right there. And like I said, everybody's altitude, humidity, all that, and it also goes based by the hydration of your sourdough. So go based by your own feeling on how things will be for you and in your dough. I'm going to knead this. Once I get this kneaded in, I will bring you back so you're not sitting here waiting on this to get done. And I'll show you what my next step is. Okay, so I have both my doughs ready. They're mixed in really good. Now I'm going to take both of these and just let them sit in here for 15 minutes. And then we will come back and get these ready for baking. In the meantime, I'm going to clean up my station. I'm going to get ready to start in the roasting pan our chicken broth so that it can set and cook for 24 hours, or at least until tomorrow morning. I'm going to let it cook all night long. So we're almost done with today's thing, and then we have dinner to do tonight, but that'll be separate. Okay, before we move on to the chicken broth, I wanted to show you something else. Not many people know you can do this. If you have a sourdough starter, and then you get to a point where you have those thoughts of what if something happens to your sourdough starter. They say you can't kill them, but there are ways you can absolutely kill them. So, I mean, there comes to a point is, what if? What would you do? Some of the discard, really simple, take a sheet of parchment paper and take a very thin, coat it. Just coat it very thin. Set it aside for a day or two and let it dry out. And this is what you will have, is sheets of your sourdough starter. And it will be crispy. What you can do with this is 2 things. One, you can store it in a Ziploc bag, label it, put it away on your pantry, and if something happens to your sourdough starters, you have a way of rehydrating your original and then turning around and making up another batch. Or another way you could do this is share the love, break it up in pieces with instructions on how to rehydrate the sourdough and share it with family and friends. So, and that's probably what I will be doing for Christmas this year, is taking some of my sourdough starter, making these up, and then sharing my starter with others. It's already, they just have to rehydrate it, feed it. It's already an active sourdough starter, and it won't take them long to use it at this point. So I thought I'd share this with you and give you an idea of other ways that you can use your starter, and hope this helps you on that one too. Okay, y'all, so now our next step, after we got the chicken is in the roaster pan right now, and I'll be adding my water to it as soon as I get my vegetables. So I'm going to cut up a bit of my celery. I'm going to use peels and all for my onions. Like I said, this is just for flavoring in my broth. So I'm not going to be too worried about this. And then I'm going to throw in a couple pieces of garlic as well. Mash these up. And now I'm going to throw all this also inside the roasting pan. And then I'm going to take you to the roasting pan and show you a few of the other steps that I do, including the seasonings that I'm going to add. Okay, so I'm going to try to work this way with you. So I'm just going to go ahead right now and pop our vegetables in here with our chicken. I've got 2 whole chickens cut up in here, and yet those again are farm fresh. We know what we grew, we knew what we fed them, and there ain't no hidden antibiotics or anything else within our chickens. So now I am going to add some fresh parsley to this. These are our flavorings. So I'm just going to pop in some fresh parsley leaves in this to season my broth. Stems and all. That stems have a lot of flavoring in them. I also use the stems in my Mediterranean cooking as well. So just breaking these up in shorter pieces, that's all. And that'll be enough of that. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and add the rest of this. So I'm going to add that parsley in there. We're going to add some bay leaves to this. This was homegrown that was given to me, and I dehydrated it. So I'm just going to throw a couple bay leaves in here. I'm just going to add a little bit of salt to this, and I am going to use kosher salt actually. Well, no, I'm actually going to use canning salt in this because it is going to be a canned product. Canning does not have any iodine, and I think my kosher salt is non-iodine, but just to make sure, I'm going to add my canning salt. I'm also going to get, and forgive me y'all, I'm working on that too, but I'm going to be getting my whole peppercorns in a minute as well. So I'm actually going to be sprinkling some of my canning salt in this. I normally do not add salt, but I'm just going to sprinkle this just a little bit for flavoring, and that's it. So the next thing I'm going to be adding is whole peppercorns. I will have to get that as well. So it's really nothing, it's pretty simple, and I'm sorry about that, y'all. I didn't have these on hand, and I should have. So I'm just going to throw a few of those in there. And now I'm just going to fill this up with water, and just to cover it, you can add from here, you can add some carrots to this if you wanted. You can add turnips. You can add any kind of vegetables you want, what other seasonings you might want in this. So that's basically what I'm going to do. And I can, when I'm cooking, I can always add my other seasonings, so I don't fret too much on how much seasonings I add to my broth. Just enough for me to give some flavor, and that's it, basically. So I'm going to get me a bowl and fill that up and fill this up. I don't put that roaster, it's too big to stick this thing inside of my sink. So I just kind of use a bowl, and then I will fill this up. It takes a little bit, but it's all right. And like I said, I've got 2 whole chickens in here. I still have 3 more that I've got to shrink wrap. So, and I will probably be doing those later on this evening, because I've got still so much more to do. I still got to get to these crackers yet, and then be able to have time for supper. I'm about to have me some coffee. We'll take a break with you for just a moment, and then we'll move on to our next thing. This is going to be another one of those set it and forget it things for overnight. And that's good enough right there. So, that's going to be our chicken stock. Now at this point, I'm going to set this right now at 300 degrees. Before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to lower this down to between 250 to 200. And then I'm going to let it cook overnight. So now I'm just going to cover that. That's the end of it. That's all I have to do until tomorrow, when I will strain this, pull the meat, and I will explain what I'll do to this in just a minute. I'm going to grab some coffee right this moment, and we're going to take a quick break. Okay, y'all, I need to make me some new aprons. I've only got basically 2. One is not even, it chokes me up here, it goes too high, so I don't really use it much, and then the other is just a half piece, so I need to get some more material and make me another apron. But in the meantime, yes, sometimes I have to take a break when I'm doing this. We went to church this morning, and after church I came home, I did the farm work, and then I started in the kitchen. So we currently have our sourdough crackers. They've been sitting well over 15 minutes now, so we're going to get to those next. We have our chicken in the rotisserie oven. Smells amazing already in here. And now we've got our chicken broth. It is ready so that we can can it in the beginning of next week. So once I do this, what I'll end up doing is taking all the meat that will be falling off the bones, I will pull it out, cool it off, bag it up, and I will use that towards other meals. An example is I made a cracked chicken, low carb, for my husband. Actually, it was amazing. I really liked it myself. So, and occasionally I will eat meals with him and share them just like that too. But it was really good. So those are other kind of meals that I can make with it, and then I can use it for some of my Mediterranean dishes. Then take all the scraps, and eventually all the scraps will be tossed, bones and all that. And I'm not doing bone meal this time. I've got enough. I don't really need no more. So I will take and strain the juice. Once I get our broth strained out, I will leave it in a pot to cool off, and then it will sit in the fridge overnight till it forms that fat cap. I'll pull the fat cap off, start heating it up the next day, and then we will can. So this will probably be canned about Tuesday or Wednesday. So, and the first round I had 3 chickens, and I ended up with 16 pints. So I'm hoping at least another dozen, and that will be amazing on our shelf. So, and then it serves purposes. And like I said, I still have 3 more hens. 1 is in the rotisserie, and I still have 3 or 4 more. 3 that I have to shrink wrap. So that's about it, y'all. I know it's a busy Sunday, but I've got so much coming up this week too that I'm wanting to do. So I figured I'd take you. I told you when I start doing things like this in preps, I would take you with me. And now I've got to get my coffee. It's iced coffee by now, but it's still my coffee. And hubby actually started the grill, so he's going to be doing those ribs shortly. That's good. Iced coffee or not, it's still good. I'm going to try and come up with some different flavors for flavored coffee. Right now I've been using either honey or substitute sugar and almond flour. Or almond flour, Lord have mercy, almond milk. So I'm going to try and come up with different flavors. I like flavored coffee, so I'm going to try and work on something like that. So, next step, we're going to be working on some sourdough crackers. So let's go back to our station. Let's get back to work. Thought I'd give you a sneak peek on this rotisserie chicken and what it's looking like so far. You ought to smell it in here, y'all. This is absolutely amazing. And I like the fat drips down at the bottom. I'm actually going to have to pull this pan right quick before we start our crackers and empty out this fat because it looks like it's getting quite full. These girls had a lot of fat on them, so I'm going to have to pull this right quick so that I can not have this go everywhere. Okay, y'all, so somewhere along the line after I turned around and explained that I had to get rid of the grease out of my rotisserie, my video cut off. So either I'm going to find a way to splice this together or it's going to be a two-part version. And I sincerely apologize, that kind of aggravated me. So what I'm going to do right now is I take a baking sheet and I lined it with parchment paper. I'm going to take this dough. Now I'm using the plain dough right now. I'm actually going to cut this in half because I'm going to make two different version types of this. I'm going to take and roll this out into a rectangle shape the best that I can here. As thin as I can, about 1/8 of an inch thickness is what I'm looking for. And I'm trying not to add any more flour to this. And just keep rolling this out until I get it to the thickness that I'm looking for. And once I get that, I will be back with you. Okay, so now that we got our dough rolled out, I'm going to use a pizza cutter. This thing works really, really well for this. It's really simple. And all I'm going to do basically is just cut strips, and then I'm going to make it into size the cracker bites. So I'm just going to go ahead, run my strips through, and I'm going to take my fork, and I'm actually going to pop each cracker piece once or twice depending on the size of the cracker. These are kind of long, big pieces, but these are the ones that are going to be coated in the white cheddar mix, which I will show you what I am going to use for that in my way. Okay, so now I'm going to get a fork and get my white cheddar mix. Okay, so I ordered these from Hoosier Hill Farm. I have white cheddar and I actually have cheddar cheese powders. So I would just add this to a plastic bag once my cheddar, or once my crackers are done in the oven. Then I will just actually put those in the bag and coat them up for that cheddar flavor. So I would have almost like Cheez-Its without adding the cheese. So right now I'm just going through here and just marking each cracker with a fork to keep it from bubbling up as much. Some of these are big pieces like this one here. I'll show you. I actually need to cut this longer, but I'm just making them just like this, about that size of a thickness. They're about 1/8 of an inch thick, and I'm just taking a fork and I'm just popping them through just like so, just to keep them from bubbling. And then I'm going to put them on our parchment paper. I'm going to bake these for about 15-20 minutes and then pull them out and let them cool off. So I'm going to go ahead and put our cracker pieces on our board. Now that's just one, and I'll show you another way of making these crackers. These are even simpler. You don't have to sit there at this point and do this. Now with the everything bagel seasoning, you do not have to pop these in there either, because the seeds will keep it from puffing up. But if you're using the basic cracker dough like I'm using here, these will have to be done. If not, I mean, you can let them bubble if you want, but they just, from what I understand, they become very crumbly. So, these are just snack crackers, so I'm not worried about it too much. And I like the fact that they're sourdough, and I know what's in it, y'all. The preservatives, there ain't none in here that I have to worry about. And I have wholesome crackers right here from home. I'm going to go ahead and finish these out, and then we'll get to the next batch. Okay, so this next one, I'm not going to worry about flattening this out. I'm actually going to make cracker breadsticks. So I'm just going to take the edges of my dough, just like this, cut out sections, because I'm just going to roll these up. Now these are going to take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes to bake, to make sure that they're completely crispy and dry. But these are one of the simplest ones to make I've seen, so I'm going to try it out just to have like breadstick crackers. And now I'm going to just take it and roll it out like this, fairly thin. If you get pointed edges from what she explained, just roll it back. And that's it. Just roll out small pieces just like this, and you have crackers. Now you can make them as long as you want. If they're too long, just cut them down in half, and you know, that way you can put them up later. Almost kind of like having a breadstick, I guess you could say. I'm going to just take these, roll this out, move this over here. Now this one's too long, so I'm just going to cut it directly in half. And just put them over here on my pan and move on to the next. And then we're going to get these in the oven, and then we'll work on the everything bagel crackers. So once I get this done, we'll get this in the oven, we'll get the everything bagel crackers, and move on to the next. Okay, and just like the basics that we just did that we're going to use to coat with cheese covering, this one here we're going to roll out, do the same thing, but only with this batch we do not have to perforate it with a fork first. Just make the cuts. This one comes out technically easier to make, less time to have to work with it. So I'm just going to sit here and roll this up into a rectangle shape as best I can. Then I'm going to cut my squares, and again get this one ready for the baking sheet. This first one is already in the oven and it's cooking while we get this set up. In the meantime, the rotisserie chicken is finished and it's cooling off right now. So I will have rotisserie chicken probably tomorrow night, and I won't have to fuss and mess with having supper tomorrow, because I will already pretty much have it basically done and just have to do my sides. Love this lifestyle, y'all. And then the fact that I know what we're eating, safe, and I don't have to worry about preservatives. You really have no idea. Since we started living this lifestyle, started this basically even with low carb. We started this about 9 months ago, but lately got into it really heavily because this has been our life the whole time, and we started realizing, you know, this is the way we've been as a homesteader. So now when we do eat out or eat things that basically is processed, it really does not agree with our bodies. It makes me feel sick to my stomach, and it just doesn't feel right. So I tend to now just stay away from it. If I want something, I can make my own. if I want my own potato chips, honestly, I will make homemade potato chips out of regular potatoes and fry them up in olive oil. And it comes out so much better flavoring and less harsh on my body. So, just like me making these crackers, I'd rather make my own. Plus, it utilizes without waste anymore of my sourdough. So now I'm going to cut, just like I cut the other ones, I'm just going to cut this down in a line, make my cracker squares, line them up on my parchment paper, and then these, again, will be baked 350 degree oven for 15 to 30 minutes, however long it takes to actually bake these. So that's pretty much all you do with this. So I will get this prepared and I will be right back with you. Okay, so our first round of crackers are finished, and I am going to be seasoning these. And I would normally use a plastic bag, but I'm actually going to use a container for this. You can do either way. I'm just going to get a spoon and a little bit of my powder in here. Sprinkle this inside of my container. Just basically going to flour coat my crackers. They are still kind of warm. So we have, I don't know if you can see this, but we have our crackers. They turned out really good, y'all. And if I would have remembered to put the salt on that, these would have been even better. But I'm going to coat them anyways with the cheese flavoring. And you can actually make this sour cream and onion. You can make this whatever flavors you want. I'm just going with the white cheddar right now. I want to see how this tastes. Spot on, y'all. That is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to keep this container because when I'm done, I'll show you what the cracker sticks look like, and I can do the same with them. So here we have our cracker sticks, and once I'm through with these, I can actually throw these in that container and coat these, and still yet we have cheese crackers. So I like this idea. I like the fact that I have homemade sourdough crackers, easier on my digestive system, and great snacks. So let me get this cleaned up and I'll be right back with you. Okay, y'all. So that's gonna wrap up today's thing. We did the rotisserie chicken, only we're gonna do something else with them. These were very old birds, so just know that if they are older than 2 years old, you're going to face the fact that you're going to get some tough meat. So we're going to probably end up slow cooking these in the oven or in the rotisserie. That's going to be an all-day cook. I'm going to take that meat, cut it up, freeze it, and then I know that I'm going to be able to cook it just like I'm doing here with the prepping meals. I'll cook it and then divide it up for different other meals and flavor it along my way. It's no big deal. I'm still not going to waste nothing. The crackers came out absolutely amazing. Fantastic way to use my sourdough, and that's exactly what I'm going to do from now on. On my discard is I'm going to make me some crackers. It makes a great snack, easier on my digestive, a lot healthier for me to eat. So I was glad to find out another way to use my sourdough starter and my discard. And now I'm getting ready to clean up my kitchen and start our supper. Hubby is out here cooking up ribs for his dinner. I am actually going to be using leftover tuna that I have, and I'm going to make me a Mediterranean tuna pasta with a side salad. So that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me on my Sunday afternoon, and until next time, we will have some more get-togethers in our kitchen and in our prepping and different things to do. We'll spend some time together. Again, I'm going to try to see if I can splice this together. If it did, you will know it by now, but if not, there was going to be cut in 2 sections because for some reason this thing cut in half on me. So until next time, much love to each and every one of you from Parton's Heritage Homestead.